Are you cruising through life not always knowing what direction you were headed? Let Live on Purpose with Dr. Paul Jenkins be your guide. Live on Purpose will give you insights into your life and show you how you can become the driver and captain of it. No more aimless wandering. By learning the principles that govern happiness and wealth, you will be able to make personal progress that you have only dreamed possible. And now, here's your host, the shrink who expands your life, Dr. Paul.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live on Purpose Radio. This is Dr. Paul, the shrink who expands your life, bringing you another episode of Live on Purpose Radio. We've got some important things to talk about today, and I, as always, have a fascinating guest with me. This is a man that I've become acquainted with over the past several weeks, maybe months. I don't know if we're up to months yet, are we, Rod?
Almost years, I think.
Oh, well, years. There you go. We've actually encountered each other in the past several times, but just started to get acquainted recently. And we had a great lunch meeting the other day where we got to talking about some things that we just really wanted to share with you listeners today. So I want to introduce my new friend and associate, Rod Alan Richardson. Welcome to the show, Rod.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be here.
I'm glad to have you with me. For you listeners, Rod is the executive vice president of a company called Residual Income Technologies.
That's a mouthful.
That gets us thinking right there. Your company does a number of things primarily in providing skill training to the direct selling industry.
That's correct.
And this becomes very relevant to a lot of folks nowadays because here we are in what I referred to just before the show as the economy. You hear this stuff all the time, don't you?
We do.
We're on the news or just in word of mouth as people are talking to each other about the economy. And they're concerned about it. And they're wondering what's going to happen to them, to their friends, to different industries that are out there. And more people are turning to solutions that they may not have even considered years ago, including home-based businesses, network marketing, entrepreneurial pursuits, those kinds of things. And your company works with these people specifically.
Right.
Is that right?
That is correct.
And providing them with some resources and training
right.
to help them do that better.
Right. Yeah, especially when most people approach that kind of industry, home-based businesses or network marketing, most of the time people struggle only because they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. So that's where Residual Income Technologies comes in.
Exactly.
Well, wonderful. I'm going to give you a chance a little bit later in our show today to talk about what kinds of things you're offering to people through that company. When we were at lunch the other day, you introduced me to some of the philosophies that underlie what you're doing to help and assist these entrepreneurs, business owners who are out there trying to make a difference and to change this economy.
Right. You know, and I think to summarize that just a little bit is to recognize when somebody's going to approach entrepreneurship, if they can remember three principles, then it'll go a long way to making their experience beneficial. And those three principles are basically be in business on purpose, which I know is a favorite.
Oh, I'm liking that.
That's a favorite phrase of yours. And the second one is actually probably even a little more edgy, per se. And that's as you approach a business opportunity, is to think like an investor and not like a parent, or to act like an investor and not like a parent.
Ooh. Okay.
And then the third one, of course, goes right along with that, and that's to be market-driven.
To be market-driven. Okay. Well, you know what? This is going to fit in really well with a couple of things that we've already done here at Live on Purpose Radio. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, and for those of you who have already heard these episodes, great. If you haven't, go listen to them. One of those episodes was with Brett Harward. Brett's the author of a book called The 5 Principles That Determine All of Life's Outcomes. 5 Laws. Sorry. The 5 laws that determine all of life's outcomes. I have a feeling that some of our conversation today is going to be very harmonious with what I talked to Brett about.
Right. It could be. Truth is truth. So.
You think? You identify a principle and then you find it in all kinds of different places.
Right.
But, the other one I was thinking of was a conversation I had recently with Mary Louise Zeller when she said, the troops aren't coming.
I like that quote.
We are the troops. I do too, because how long are we going to sit around and wait for something or someone else to fix all of this?
Mm-hmm.
What we have to do as responsible citizens in this country and in our communities, but also just as moral and ethical human beings, is to step up, find ways to start producing and creating value for others in a way that's going to fix the whole economy.
Right.
Is that too bold?
No, I don't think so. And in addition to that too, it's about making your intentions clear, and then making a decision to execute. I did a little visual for some people one time who asked me. They were talking about building a business, and I said, "Hey, well, when are you going to do that?" And they said, "When we'll wait and see what happens." I just love that phrase. They'll wait and see. And so what I did is I took a video cassette and I set it up on the table, and I said, "Let me illustrate what you just said. Let's pretend like we want the video cassette from the right side of the table to the left side of the table, and now let's all of us wait and see what happens."
Right.
So we all stared at the video cassette. Of course, it didn't move. And then I said, "What if we did this?" And I reached over and grabbed it and pushed it over to the other side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so the principles there are, one, making the decision, and then purposely, or being in business on purpose, and essentially taking the action to move it to the other side of the table. But a lot of people just wait and see.
That's a trap that grabs a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let's take these 3 principles. I know you've got more of them too, and if we have time, we'll get to some of those. But let's take these 3 and let's just kind of flesh them out a little bit and see what they mean. So you started with be in business on purpose.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit. What does that mean?
Well, I think, part of this is probably really near and dear to your heart. And that's I think before somebody can start a business, or before they should start a business, is they have to understand the purpose of it. And so now purpose, of course, has multi-dimensions. There's your purpose, and there's the purpose for the business. There's the purpose that the business will fulfill. And so as you look at these things, it's important to be on purpose, to have a purpose, because most people might start a business just because. And if there's no because or no why, then it's very difficult to know if you're even headed in the right direction. And so I coined the phrase "be in business on purpose" to understand the objective of the business that you're trying to build. And so I've actually created a couple of exercises that go along with helping people discover at least a financial type of purpose. And so it just depends on how a person defines purpose. But if we're going to do a business, then we should have a purpose for that business. We should do it on purpose. We should do the activities that we do in the business on purpose. And
so this is really determining the why.
Right.
Why are we doing this in the first place?
Right.
What do you think are some of the most common answers people have before they get clear about their purpose? Why do they start businesses?
I think it probably stems from a bunch of different things that take place inside of an individual. Sometimes somebody will start a business because they're tired of their job, or because they don't have one. Or most common is that people want to achieve financial freedom, or there's something inside of them that's calling them to do something. An inner feeling, or a desire, a drive that's working them towards some sort of purpose, and sometimes that manifests itself in the form of a business, and so these different these different purposes. I find though that financial freedom is probably one of the largest reasons that somebody creates a business. Most of the time we think, why am I going to go into business? Well, it's because I want to make more money. And why do you want to make more money? Because then I can do the things that I want to do, or I can contribute to the things that I want to do. And but a lot of times when people start a business, then they lose focus on that purpose. And as a result, they start doing sporadic things or things that don't make sense.
Well, you know what? As we're having this conversation, I'm just kind of doing a little personal inventory here too, because I have done so much of that. I've been involved. I don't even know the number of different businesses that I've been involved with at some level. And some of those I've created, some of those I've joined, some of those I was just a part of by virtue of some activity that I was involved with at the time. But I'm remembering the times I've been the most successful have been the times when I've been the clearest about my purpose.
Right.
Why am I doing that in the first place? Something has to drive you to do all of the stuff that's required for success.
Right.
And if you have a strong enough why, you'll figure out the hows.
Exactly. There's another phrase too that's this is actually an anchor wisdom that's like not on the list that we have today.
Okay.
But essentially it says, be on a cause and not a crusade.
Okay.
Now the reason that's important is because when, say, somebody's purpose is to create financial freedom, that's why we're going to build a business. Now the business may may have a greater cause, but ultimately, if the business cannot reward you, it doesn't stay on that path of creating the financial freedom, then the business isn't serving you on all its dimensions. And so just to give you a little example of that, sometimes people will create a business and they'll end up doing all the work. And as a result, it consumes all their time. And when that happens, then the business becomes essentially cornered, and it can't grow. So I figure that an individual, a single person entity, has the capability of making between $100,000 and $500,000. And so if somebody is starting a personal business, it's very difficult to create enough activity to generate that kind of income with one person. And so that's why a person has to understand where they're going with the business so they scale it properly.
Then they can start putting all the pieces together as it becomes appropriate.
Right.
Well, great. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to be right back with these 3 wisdoms. Thank you for joining me for the Live on Purpose radio podcast. It is truly an honor to be a part of your prosperity team. Please visit my website, drpaul.org, to get connected with other tools for you and your family. There you will find links to my weekly e-zine, Empower, Harnessing the Power of the Mind, and to the free Parental Power teleconference that I host every week with my wife, Vicki. You can also check out upcoming events or pick up powerful information products. Feel free to contact me directly with questions, comments, or to book me for your company or private event. Email me through drpaul@liveonpurposeradio.com.
This is Kirk Weasler to tell you about morebetterbooks.com. Morebetterbooks.com is where you can find more better books for a more better life. Not only that, let me tell you about some of the very fun and cool select titles on morebetterbooks.com. You'll want to get a copy of The Dog Poop Initiative. This best-smelling book could change your life forever. It certainly changed the lives of thousands of Boeing employees, as well as school teachers, parents, leaders across the United States and in Israel and in Germany. And you can get your own copy at morebetterbooks.com. Whoa, that's not all. What about The Cookie Thief? This classic tale told in a rhyming format, fully illustrated with very fun hidden messages. Pick up a copy now today on morebetterbooks.com. Other great titles there: Finding Your Pathway to Mastery, Beyond Illusions, Make It Great. These titles are only available on morebetterbooks.com. Go to morebetterbooks.com today and begin to have a more better life and live that life on purpose.
So, part of the purpose of business, well, it almost sounds silly for me to even summarize it because it's kind of a duh sort of thing, okay, is to create financial freedom.
Right.
And you do that, of course, by providing a valuable product or service to people who are looking for that and who would value it. But why would you have a business if you couldn't create some kind of a financial reward for that, or
right? As I think about it, I find that most people are mentally adverse to becoming financially free. As odd as that sounds,
really.
And if you think about it, there's kind of a stigma. Oh no, we can't build a business that makes money. And if you think about it, there's kind of a subtle undercurrent of emotional baggage, I think, that goes along with it. But I find, businesses themselves are designed to serve people, to fulfill an important purpose. But the reason for you spending your time creating a business, at least in my opinion, should be first and foremost to create financial freedom. And so, because if you think of a person that's financially free, it's very difficult for them to rise to their highest capacity. Mm-hmm. So if a person is riding in what we call paucity, a complete lack, or there's not enough, it's kind of, for lack of a better way to describe it, it's kind of like being an animal.
Okay.
I was thinking about animals this morning, and I was thinking, man, what if I had to get up this morning and go hunt for my food? Mm-hmm. What would I do? I would go hunt for my food, and then by the afternoon I'd be hungry again, so I would have to go out and hunt my food again. Mm-hmm. And so I think as people have their needs met, then it releases them and frees up their time in order to accomplish greater things.
Right.
And so we're not so emotionally consumed. And so as a general rule, I look at, of course, serving people is the top priority. But one of the top goals is to become financially free so that you can be completely released to focus on your purpose. Mm-hmm. And so in that context, and we've seen this over and over again because our company does a lot of training simulations. Where we'll throw people into a state of wealth. And we find that if we throw them into a state of wealth instantly, that it creates all kinds of negative emotional reactions, crying, overwhelm, depression, and you wouldn't expect that. If somebody can't connect the dots on how they did it.
Because then it just feels like luck.
Right.
Or something that's outside of their control.
I think the biggest thing is it's unbelievable.
Right.
And so so one of the other anchor wisdoms that I've coined in relation to that is take it to the level you can believe it. So oftentimes somebody will present a dream and it's way beyond their ability to even believe that it's possible. And so oftentimes we have to bring that back down to a level that you can actually see it. So, for example, if somebody has a goal to make $100,000 a month, but they've never seen how that's accomplished, then it's difficult to believe. Now, if they say they're making $5,000 a month, and then I push the envelope a little bit, and we push the goal to say $6,000 or $7,000 a month, well, it's very believable to the individual. They can see the path that they need to take, and so right. And once they accomplish that, then they see that they can achieve success, and then by repeating that process, we can build a stair step up into where a person can handle or comprehend wealth. And it's I find that unless I walk people through the steps of building it, there's no way they can comprehend it. If they arrive at it suddenly, they'll lose it.
Well, that's a fascinating concept. So you've got some other exercises or tools that you can use to help people to hone in on what's a realistic goal for me. And by realistic, I guess I mean believable.
Right.
That's a good way to put that.
I think where it starts is first helping an individual unlock their mind to possibilities.
Okay.
And so when I'm in a group, usually what I do is I ask people to tell me where their most peaceful place is in the world. Where would you go? So I'll ask you the question. Where do you want to go? Where would you go if you wanted to go to a place where you had nothing to think about or worry about? Where would that place be? Is that a beach, a mountain cabin?
I'm picturing a place right next to a beautiful mountain waterfall.
Awesome.
You know, with a little bit of the spray coming at me. And
I love the visuals. I can feel the water right now.
Can you feel that? Can you hear it?
I can hear it.
Can you smell it?
I can smell it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
For me, that's an example of one of those places.
Okay, so imagine that imagine that you're there.
Okay.
You're at that place where that waterfall is, and you're sitting there just admiring the beauty that's around you, the smells. You can feel the water. You're completely relaxed. There's nothing troubling your mind whatsoever. And then all of a sudden you notice that there's an individual walking towards you that's wearing a tuxedo.
Okay.
So and I predict that your response would be just like that.
That's strange.
Odd, right? And so this individual with a tuxedo is walking straight forward you. And you wait. Of course, he's non-threatening, and you watch, and he's walking up to you. And pretty soon he walks up to you and he says, "Dr. Paul, today is your lucky day." And you're like, "Wow, how could it get any better than it is?"
Right.
And then he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a leather-bound checkbook. And inside are 3 checks. And those checks are essentially at the top, say, paid from the World Bank. And the gentleman says, "Today's your lucky day. You receive 3 checks from the World Bank." The World Bank, of course, can provide for you any amount that you could ever want. And but you have 3 checks. The only caveat is you only have 2 minutes to decide who you're going to write them to and for how much. And so at that point, I allow the audience 2 minutes to write the 3 checks. Who would they be to? How much are they for? And so if we're doing this...
So we can invite our listeners to do this.
Right, exactly.
Right now.
Exactly. And so let's do this a little bit in real time. If you had 3 checks right now, who would you write them to and how much?
Okay, so this is to get to Dr. Paul's answers?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. That's a good challenge.
It's that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Okay, now do you want me to answer these, or will that distract our listeners from what they want to do?
Don't distract them at all.
All right, let's see. And you can't write it out to yourself.
Oh, there's no
or
rules.
You can.
3 checks.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 checks and 3 balances. So essentially, your commission is to write a check out to whoever for however much. You have 3 checks. Of course, at the end of 2 minutes, he goes, "Checkbook, please."
You give it on back, huh? Okay. So, and you're putting me right on the spot here, Rod, because I'm...
That's right. The irony is every time we do this exercise live, everyone's on the spot.
That's how you feel, exactly.
Right. And what's interesting is that emotion is our first reflection of our feelings about money.
Because at the bottom of this is, I don't know what the heck I would do
right
with that money. So that's what you're pushing
Exactly.
pushing us into. And I hope you guys are doing this while I am, because I'm jotting this down on my pad here.
So
Okay.
I'm like way curious to see who these checks.
Well, you keep
Of course, your
talking,
son,
Rod, while I
your
work
son's
on
smiling big over there.
this. You got to be doing this too, Ryan. Okay. And I hope you guys are doing this while I am, because I'm going to jot these down. All right. How am I doing on time?
I don't know. You're probably. I didn't watch this. I didn't start the
I'm
timer,
getting
so
close.
we got to be close.
Okay. All right. We got dead air, Rod. You got to talk while I'm thinking.
Oh, this is this is this is an important exercise. I think while you're filling those out, I had an experience one time in my life where I suddenly became worth a lot of money, and what I didn't expect was the emotion that would cause. When it first happened, of course, I was excited. About a week later, I was sitting in my office in complete depression, thinking, wow, what in the heck am I going to do? I don't have any idea what to do with this kind of money. And I realized at that moment that I had no preparation for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so as part of that, in years since, of course, when I've been working with people, it's helping them to unlock their mind to the potential, or to at least ask the question, what would I do if I had 3 checks? Could write them to anybody for any amount.
Mm-hmm.
What would I do? And of course, the answers. I think after your break, I'll share with you some of those, some of the answers that people give, and try to make some sense out of that. So, what'd you write?
Okay, I'm just finishing it up here. I'm changing that one.
Did you come up with some, Ryan?
Okay. All right. You want me to share this?
Yeah. If you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Change the names of the innocent if you want.
Oh, it's okay. You know what? This is so interesting, Rod, because we think sometimes that we know exactly what we would do,
Right.
Or that we think that we want money, but we have no clue what we would even do with it.
Right.
And I can share with you another example of one that I've done before that's similar, but it takes a little different angle on it. Okay, so I figured I'd write the first check for $10 million.
All right.
To myself and my wife in a trust fund that we could put toward a number of different things that I won't detail right now.
All right.
Okay. I would write another check for $10 million to my business as a capital contribution to allow me to create more value in this world with that amount of money.
Awesome.
And then I would write another one for $150 million to a fund that I would use for philanthropy and investment.
Interesting. Now, the question to ask yourself over the break is, why did I choose $10 million?
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back.
I've got a great idea.
This is Shay Larson, IdeaOrbit.com, with the World of Ideas Report.
Ouch! Ouch! Have you ever been poked by a needle? For some people, having a nurse poke through your skin with a needle is about all they can bear. But have you ever had to be poked twice? 3 times? How about 4 times? Some people report having to be poked 10 or more times before a medical professional is able to find one of their veins. This isn't always the professional's fault. Some veins are hard to find, especially in seniors and children. A technology company from Memphis, Tennessee had an idea that is making this common annoyance a thing of the past. They call it Vein Viewer. Vein Viewer is a simple technology that allows a healthcare or medical professional to place a transparent adhesive strip on your skin. Then, magically, you can see your veins in surprising detail using the infrared light. With the veins in clear view, one quick poke is now the standard. Thanks to Luminex for coming up with a painless idea.
This is Shay Larson, IdeaOrbit.com, with the World of Ideas Report.
I've got a great idea. Wouldn't you like to know? You probably can't bear it, so I guess I'll have to share it. I thought of it a moment ago.
Great leaders are almost always great simplifiers who can cut through argument, debate, and doubt to offer a solution everybody can understand. General Colin Powell.
Okay, Rod. I'm having fun at Live on Purpose Radio today. I've shared with some of my guests before that one of the reasons I do this is because I get some personal consultation and coaching and occasionally a little bit of a butt kicking. But you know what? It illuminates to me a number of things that I wasn't thinking about before you and I sat down here today. Mm-hmm. When you walked me through this exercise, and listeners, you guys know the numbers that I just grabbed within 2 minutes. And Rod, just before the break, you said, well, why did you pick 10 million?
Right.
Why on earth did I pick 10 million? I don't know. Is that a big number? Is it a little number?
I don't know.
It's just, for some reason I picked it, but it reveals some of the level of thinking that I'm doing.
Right.
Not only about what's possible, but what I'm ready to deal with.
Right. That would be my guess. As I've done this exercise dozens and dozens of times, it's the interesting thing is most of the time people pick the same number for all the checks, and they range anywhere from 1 million to 5 million to 10 million to 50 million, and every once in a while you'll see somebody that writes, I've only seen this a couple of times. Somebody that'll write like infinite zeros, and so the question that I always ask is, what does that number mean to you? Mm-hmm. And my best guess is that, like you said, it's a number you probably comprehend, and most people have at least some sort of at least illusion that they comprehend the number that they write down, mm-hmm. And somehow it equates in their life to some reality. Mm-hmm. Now,
that's right.
The people that write infinite numbers, of course, usually I counter with that, and I said, why in the world what would you do with that? Mm-hmm. If it's several $1 trillion, for example. Mm-hmm. I go, what are you planning to do? Buy an army, or
the planet?
Yeah, it's more money than Harvard by most countries, and so really, once it gets into that level, it's really nonsensical, mm-hmm. in terms of cash goes anyway. And so I actually enjoy seeing the smaller numbers because I think it represents a little bit more realism in a person's life. Again, taking it to the level you can believe it. Mm-hmm. And so, but that there is a deeper lesson to this exercise, and I've only become aware of it even years after creating the exercise.
Okay.
And but to do that, we got to do another exercise.
Oh boy, bring it on, Rod! And I hope you listeners are taking the opportunity to do this yourself. Push yourself a little bit. I'm willing to do this, as an example.
Right. You're on the hot seat.
I'm on the hot seat, and I'm fine with that if it's going to create value for you. So please do this as well.
It'll be awesome. Well, this exercise is really an important one because this defines financial freedom.
Okay.
The first number, I ask people to write a list of numbers. The first number that you want to write is how much money do you need each month to survive? Not any less, and you're not getting things paid, but not excessive or not more, just enough. What is the exact bare bones survival number that you need each month? And again, you can make these numbers up if you don't want to share them on air.
That's all right. Well, okay. But I'm going to jot them down here, and we can do what we want to with them afterwards.
Right. Okay. So, but anyway, that's the number that you want to write down. What is the bare bones survival income that you need on a monthly basis? Now, that serves a lot of things, because if it's any less than this number, things start to break down. And that becomes an important number, especially when you think about being in business on purpose, because if the business can't meet that number, then it's not a business on purpose. It's got some structural issues to it. But anyway, this number is also important for another reason, and that is because we need to times that number by 6. And
is that the next number I'm writing down?
Right. Well, you write it across. So you take whatever the bare bones number is. So if that number is $5,000 or $3,000 or whatever, times 6, and then you'd have your total.
Okay.
Now and probably out of a calculator handy. But the next number that you want to write is how much money on a monthly basis would you like to earn. Now this amount of money is not an extravagant amount, but it's a comfortable amount, meaning everything's easily paid. You have some money to be able to do the things that you want. But again, it's not it's not like a dream level or anything like that. It's it's a very reasonable comfort level. And so meeting all the needs, but then helping you to feel a little bit more free to do and have the things that you want.
You
can go on a trip. You can go on your vacations. You can contribute to college funds. You can do all the things that you would like to do.
Okay.
Now what you want to do is you want to times that number by 160.
By 160, huh?
Right. Now now just a little background behind that number. What that number represents is the amount of income that you would like to earn times 160 will create the number that you would need to have earning at a 7% interest rate to create that amount of money. Okay? And so if that number was $10,000 times 160 would be $1.6 million earning at 7% interest would generate the $10,000 a month.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Now, the next number that you want to write down underneath the column of bigger numbers. So you have the times 6 number, and then you have the times 160 number. Underneath that, write the amount that a brand new home, fully furnished, would cost you to purchase and pay off. Again, not a dream house, but the type of house that if you walked in, were standing in the living room, and you looked up and said, if this was it, I could be happy here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's pretty a decent home, but not necessarily maybe the dream mansion or anything like that.
Okay.
A perfectly reasonable house that gives you emotional freedom. And what it would cost to outfit it the way you want it outfitted.
Just set it up and have it all paid off and everything.
Right. And again, at the level that you could be happy.
Okay.
The next number that you want to write down is the cost of 2 vehicles, brand new vehicles, fully paid off. Again, not dream cars, but cars that you would feel completely comfortable driving. If you were driving these. Then the next number you'd want to write down is the amount that you would need to have to eliminate all debt, not necessarily business debt or anything that's asset-based. So, for example, a home mortgage. We wouldn't necessarily include a home mortgage unless your house is upside down.
So this is based on our current situation.
Right.
Where we are right now.
Right.
Whatever debt is there, what number is going to be required to just pay all that off?
Right.
Okay.
You write a check for it and it's gone, not including an existing mortgage. Then what you do is you total that column of numbers.
Okay.
And when you get to the bottom, that number is the number that we call your freedom bar.
Okay.
Essentially, that number represents financial freedom, financial and emotional freedom. It essentially, life in that world means that you own your home. It's paid off. You own your cars. There's no car payments. There's no debt. And essentially, you have a monthly residual income that's generating consistently, or passive income, or whatever you want to call it. That's being generated on a regular basis. So, now, what did your total come out to be, or any of those numbers you feel compelled to share?
I'm putting my freedom bar right now at about 4.3 million.
Okay. So most people would be extremely comfortable in a $500,000 home, a $10,000 a month income, $80,000 in 2 cars. Most people probably average, around $30,000 to $60,000 in debt. And so as a result, a freedom bar number is probably averaged around 2.4 million or something like that.
Right.
It's about what it comes out to create that kind of lifestyle. Now here's what I learned. One day I was driving down the road, headed towards a stoplight, and I was pondering my freedom bar. And it was at that time, this was several years ago, it was hovering around that level. And I thought, I got to driving down the road, and I thought to myself, the house that I live in isn't too bad, and I only owe $150,000 on it. It was the remaining mortgage. And I thought, okay, so if I took the $500,000 down to $150,000, and then I was driving a little further, and then I thought, the car I'm driving is actually pretty new and pretty nice. And I only owed $18,000 on it. So I took the $40,000, knocked that down to $18,000. And then I thought, if I didn't have any debt, own my car, own my home, I probably wouldn't need $10,000. Matter of fact,
to live comfortably.
Right. Between $3,000 and $5,000 would probably be a dramatic. Most people don't have that much disposable income.
Sure.
And so I thought about that, and then by the time I got to the stoplight, my freedom bar went from $2.5 million down to $800,000. Now, if you think about this in context of building a business on purpose, if financial freedom is the first goal, if I can focus on freedom first, it's advantageous for me to have that number lower than higher. And so one of the things I really emphasize to people is to distinguish between dream lifestyle, and financial freedom. And I've created a name for both of these. One is freedom, of course, which is your freedom bar. And the other realm of dream lifestyle, I call echelon. And so I have people think in terms of, what do I have to do to make myself financially free versus what are the things that I want to do to create a dream lifestyle? And so every time I'm contemplating a purchase, if I say, okay, I want to buy a new Toyota Camry, or do I want to buy a new Mercedes 55 AMG? What category would those purchases fall under? One might be freedom. The other is obviously echelon.
Right.
And if I can make that distinction, then I will start making financial choices that guide me towards financial freedom first without the lifestyle tanking me. Because most people grow their incomes, increase their lifestyles, and end up outside of the realms of financial freedom.
Partially because they're trying to pursue the dream before they establish the freedom.
Right. Exactly.
Great exercise, Rod.
It's good stuff.
We'll come right back to this after our next break. If the pile of books you want to read is growing faster than the pile you have read, then Abundant Reading Systems can help you. After taking Abundant Reading Systems course, I dramatically increased my ability to expand my knowledge in a much more efficient way.
My fastest test today was in 7,000 words per minute. I highly recommend this program. From what I've seen it do for other people who've been through the entire program and from what I've seen in myself today.
I've teamed up with Abundant Reading Systems to offer a single-day intensive speed reading workshop that will at least double your reading speed, guaranteed.
This belief started to grow inside of me that I thought, I can really do this. I can read, as fast as I let myself read. And ended up doubling my speed reading time, which was really good.
This is David Hinton, founder of Abundant Reading Systems. I want to personally invite you to join us for our next event. Visit AbundantReadingSystems.com now. Abundant Reading Systems, reading at the speed of imagination.
Raising kids is one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences we can have in life. Your children didn't come with an owner's manual, so it's up to you to learn whatever will assist you in your role as a mom or a dad. Join me and my husband, Dr. Paul, for a free weekly discussion about all of the hot topics in parenting. Listen to what others are saying about these calls.
By applying the things I've learned through the Parental Power calls, I'm finally becoming the mom I always thought I would be.
I really like to use Parental Power as kind of like a reference book. So as I have concerns with my parenting, I like to be able to look up on the blog and then listen to whatever podcast seems closely related. So I like the variety of topics, the variety of age groups that are addressed.
I'm on the Parental Power calls as often as I possibly can because I know I'm going to come away with something I can apply to being a parent that very day.
Let us join your parenting team through Parental Power. Just send an email to Dr. Paul at liveonpurposeradio.com to register for the live calls. Or just check us out first through the link at drpaul.org. All of the previous calls are posted on our blog site, where you can also add your own input. Let's team up to start parenting on purpose. Okay, so I'm realizing something here, Rod, as I'm having my financial fitness examination. We all have to come to terms with the relationship that we have with money. And it was interesting. You've taken us through 2 exercises. And folks, if you didn't actually do them yourself, it's not going to help you nearly as much as, just listening to Dr. Paul go through this experience. Do it. Do the exercise. And thank you, Rod, for pushing me a little bit, because it would be easy to say, well, let's just put it out there for our listeners to do. But you pushed enough to get me to just try this.
Right.
And I've realized several things as we've been here talking. The World Bank one, okay? Mm-hmm. Where do you get the number for that check? But you're going to tie this back together for us too, aren't you?
I am. Okay. Just one more thought on these exercises too is that if you're doing these exercises yourself, if you can share these with your spouse or business partners, it's going to go a long ways to getting everybody on the same page financially. Mm-hmm. So it's important stuff. It's important. I know when my wife and I came up with the Freedom Bar. Freedom Bar is a common term around my friends and my partners and my spouse, all because you want everybody to be on the same page when you're all working together to build a financial picture. Mm-hmm. And so, how does the World Bank exercise tie in? This is an important thing because remember in the beginning we talked about emotional readiness for money. Mm-hmm. And so in the principle, be in business on purpose. If we're creating a business to create some level of money, it's important that we understand our relationship with it first, and we start outlining or mapping out what kind of targets we're trying to hit. Mm-hmm. So I interpret vision as the way you're looking. Mm-hmm. And so you can only walk the direction you're looking. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you trip and fall. Mm-hmm. You can only arrive at a destination that you're looking at. And so the purpose of those exercises are to set up a vision, vision of the way that you're headed. So it's important everybody understands your vision and that all your visions come together to create the thing. One day I came into my office and one of my business partners said, I had an epiphany about the World Bank exercise. He'd been listening to it, going through it in his mind. And of course, he's been through this exercise for years, over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then one day he came in and he goes, I had the most incredible epiphany. And I said, what's that? And he said, I realized that I'm not supposed to write the checks to anyone else. And I was like, really? Why is that? And he goes, because people are not emotionally ready for money. And if they're not educated and prepared for it, it will destroy them or they'll lose it. And so we started talking about some other things. And, in our world, we've received $200,000 in a month before from a single transaction and watched that money evaporate. And why is it? It's because we never learned how to hold on to it. And so essentially what we figured is that the first check should be written for your Freedom Bar. And then the second check should be post-dated for a year or two later for the same amount. Because the reality is you probably would have lost it.
If you haven't learned what you needed to learn yet.
Right.
Use the first check to learn it.
Right. And so that gives you one more redemption.
Oh, man, I think I've had that check, Rod.
Right. Most of us have. I mean, we've, I can't tell you how many times I've cycled through great amount of money.
Yeah.
And so what we realized is that the first check, and it's easy to do. You just ask yourself the question, if you received $100,000 today, what would happen to it?
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, it depends on your debt situation or types of things, but depending on the bills that you have, $100,000 would probably disappear almost instantly.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so
like a drop of water on a hot skillet.
Right. Or pouring a cup, expecting to fill the desert with a cup of water,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so really it's an object about learning how money comes in and stays a part of your value.
Mm-hmm.
Either through the acquisition of assets or building things of value, like you talk about a lot, and not just letting it go, because in most cases it'll evaporate. I can tell you, $100,000 coming into our business right now has a place. It would be immediately absorbed in the infrastructure. And different things like that. So we started counting up the money. Well, at what point does that not become an issue? For every person, that's probably a different level. But then I made the assertion that it wouldn't matter how much it was, because no matter how much the check was written for, it would evaporate, because that's the pattern that you've created.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you'd want to start with a small amount and see if you could grow it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you couldn't figure that out, then there's no sense in making it a big amount, because the same thing would happen regardless of how big or small the check is.
Yeah.
And so as we discussed that at some length, and we got thinking, wow, because the emotional reaction of money is pretty astounding. It's we've taken people with our simulators, thrown them into instant wealth, and watched people melt and just go into financial despair. It's just the strangest thing to watch. And it's something that no one expects, but mainly because they've never been confronted with it before.
Mm-hmm. And then there's so much interesting psychology that goes into this too, because your mind will go to great lengths to keep you in your comfort zone.
Right.
And so if you have a way to push yourself out of that comfort zone and to start to train yourself and to teach yourself how to manage the abundance that's available to you.
Right.
You wonder sometimes why it's not coming to you. Maybe you're not ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so the whole object is to prepare yourself for it.
Mm-hmm.
Understand, create a path for money, create a purpose. There's be in business on purpose. What is it you're trying to create? Well, once I have somebody's freedom bar, then it's pretty easy to say, okay, well, we need to figure out how to create a business that becomes $4.5 million asset. And then if we're going to add taxes, we're probably shooting for about a $10 million business in order to create that. And so to create that kind of organization, that now changes the context of my business. Okay, so now my business, I have a purpose. It has to achieve a certain level, and so I have to start thinking about it in different types of scale and scope.
That's right.
And then the other principles that we talk about apply right into that. So if I'm making that kind of business decision, then it comes into the next principle, once I've established the purpose, to act like an investor and not like a parent. So a lot of times, especially if I come up with a new idea and it's my pet project and I love it, no one will hurt my baby. That kind of thinking drives a person into irrational management thought. And as a result, they can never create much of anything.
So that's what you mean by act like an investor,
right,
and not a parent.
Right. And so it's really the mental process of thinking objectively and not subjectively. There's certain things that there's a whole lot, the majority of business and its outcome we can't control. And so we're working on balancing what we can't control with what we can control.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're making an investment decision, there's just certain things that will work and some things that will not work.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're driven too much by emotion, then we think subjectively, and most of the time we end up losing our money.
I've been there too. But I see exactly what you're talking about, because there are some things that I just cling to because it's my baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and you just keep feeding the darn thing and it just consumes.
Right. And it consumes more than resources. It consumes time.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it comes back. I have a phrase called greater causes and higher purposes. So when we're building a business towards a purpose and we've identified a greater cause and a higher purpose, what fuels that greater cause and higher purpose? Is it my ability to donate time to it? Is it huge financial resources that I want to contribute to it? In either case, there's a strict management philosophy that we have to adopt, an investor thinking paradigm, in order to achieve it. We can never achieve it or magnify that talent if we think about it parentally. You think, even in the Bible, when it talks about the parable of the talents, the investors magnified it and were rewarded by the master.
Mm-hmm.
The one that hid the talent, of course, was afraid that they would lose it. In a sense, thought subjectively and never invested. They harbored it, they hoarded it, they protected the baby. They made irrational choices that didn't make. I find in business, if it doesn't make sense, it often doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And even
it doesn't make dollars either.
Right. And so it's really you can think about things, and if something you're doing doesn't make sense, if you can't see the revenue path, it probably doesn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important to approach business like an investor. And then with the third principle, being market driven, is to realize that the market is actually dictating purchasing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we create something, there is no value to what we created until the market says so.
Until they value it and they want it.
And so as a result, if you build business moving with the market space, then as a result, you have the ability to accelerate the revenue of a business, being market-driven, responding to market conditions. For example, the world of debt right now is huge.
Yes, it is.
Massive. Well, that creates a phenomenal market-driven opportunity. If a person were to start buying bulk debts at wholesale rates and things like that, home losses. So I would imagine that apartment rentals are increasing. That market creates a new opportunity.
Just paying attention to what's going on out there.
But if I'm building high-end homes, and that's my passion, chances are I don't have a market right now.
Yeah, at the moment.
Right.
That changes too.
Right.
Well, Rod, we've got just a few seconds left. I want to give you a chance to just tell people how they can get connected with you and some of the resources your company offers.
Sure.
What's the best way?
The best way is at the website, www.ritraining.com. And the R and the I stands for Residual Income. So
okay.
It's ritraining.com. And basically we have a free skills training resource called Skill Radio. And at ritraining.com, they can register for that resource for free. And
wonderful.
Every Thursday, we broadcast live. And so I just say go and sign up for the call.
Just go to the website, get signed up for the calls. Folks, do the exercise that we did today. It'll help you get a start, but then let's work on getting that mindset turned around, because once you prepare your mind to receive, the abundance is there for you. Rod Richardson, thank you for being
it's my
Live
pleasure.
On Purpose Radio today. All right, everybody, go out there and live on purpose.